We've all seen it. That person, whether it's an athlete, a musician, an artist, who makes something incredibly difficult look, well, easy. Today, we're going to pull back that curtain and find the invisible key to what we call effortless success.
So, have you ever just watched someone do something so perfectly you think, wow, they were just born to do that? We call it natural talent, right? But what if that's just the highlight reel? What if that's only the tiny part of the story we're allowed to see? Let's dig into what's really happening beneath the surface.
And to really get our heads around this, let's start with a true icon of sports, the legendary Joe DiMaggio. Because to anyone watching him on that baseball field, what he did looked like pure, unadulterated magic.
Look, DiMaggio wasn't just good, he was a legend. I mean, a 56-game hitting streak, that is one of the most untouchable records in all of sports history. And the way he did it, his swing was just poetic. His movements were so graceful, you'd swear he came out of the womb holding a baseball bat.
To give you some perspective, that record has stood for over 75 years. It's the kind of thing that cements your legacy as a complete natural, a genius. But was he?
Well, the story goes that years later, a reporter was interviewing an older DiMaggio and got a tour of his house, including the basement. And what he saw down there, it completely shattered that myth of natural talent. The walls were just covered, floor to ceiling, with thousands and thousands of tiny chalk marks.
You see, every single one of those marks represented one practice swing. It was part of this grueling daily routine. Those marks were the hidden proof of 17 years of relentless, obsessive, day-in, day-out practice. The secret wasn't genius, it was work.
And that right there brings us to our first huge takeaway. What the world saw as completely effortless was actually the end result of practice so intense, so consistent, that the unbelievably difficult just became second nature. The magic wasn't born, it was manufactured in that basement.
Okay, so if it's not about just being born with it, what's the real key? Well, it turns out it's something we all have access to right now, our own mind. It is the true architect of our reality.
Let's switch gears and look at the story of Paramhansa Yogananda. From the time he was a little kid, he was sickly, his digestion was terrible, and he absolutely believed, deep down, that this was just his destiny. That being weak and frail was just a fundamental part of who he was. And then, something incredible happened. His teacher challenged that core belief. He told him, "You are weak only because you believe you are." So by changing his internal story, by focusing his mind with incredible intensity on strength, Yogananda completely rebuilt his physical health. And get this, the most dramatic change took just 2 weeks. This gets to this core, powerful idea from his teacher, Sri Yukteswar. Our thoughts aren't just passive little things floating around. No, they're like hammers. They are actively, constantly shaping our bodies, our skills, and our lives. Every single thought is either building you up or, breaking you down.
Okay, so if our minds are that powerful, what's the deal? Why do we so often feel stuck or unproductive? The philosopher Swami Vivekananda had this brilliant metaphor that explains it perfectly. He describes the untrained mind as being like a leaky pot. Think about it. You can pour all the hard work and mental energy you want into it, but it just drains away through all these little holes. The distraction of checking your phone, the worry about what might happen tomorrow, replaying that mistake from yesterday over and over again.
So, what's the tool that plugs those leaks? It's one thing: concentration. The ability to focus all of your mental energy, all of it, on one single point without it scattering everywhere. That, he says, is the real superpower. So how in the world do you build that kind of focus? Well, here's a beautifully simple and practical method. Instead of fighting your thoughts, you just anchor them in the present. You engage all of your senses in what you're doing right now. Feel the weight of the pen in your hand. Hear the sound of the keys clicking. Actually watch the words appear on the screen. It pulls your mind into the here and now, and it plugs those leaks. All right, so once we have that tool of focus, we hit another huge roadblock, one that I think we all fall into. It's obsessing over the destination. We get so fixated on the end goal that we totally miss the most important part, the journey itself. There's this wonderful parable about a village chief's son who gets sent on this long, epic journey to find a hidden treasure. He travels for an entire year, faces all sorts of hardship, and the only thing driving him forward is the thought of finding that gold.
But when he finally gets there, there's no treasure. The whole thing was a setup. He's heartbroken, obviously, and he starts the long trek home. But this time is different. With no goal to rush toward, he starts to actually notice things. He learns how to trade with merchants, how to find medicinal plants. He sees the beauty in a sunrise for the first time. He arrives back home a completely different and far richer person.
This story just perfectly captures an idea from the philosopher Lao Tzu called silent awareness. It's that moment when you stop seeing your work as just a chore, just a means to an end. When the process itself becomes the reward, everything changes. Your work, whatever it is, can literally become a form of meditation, a source of real peace.
Okay, so let's bring all of these incredible ideas together. We've talked about the myth of talent, the raw power of your mind, the tool of focus, and the wisdom of the journey. So what do we do with all of this? How do we make it real?
First, as Swami Vivekananda urged, you have to be fearless. You have to stop letting those small doubts, both from the critics outside and the critic inside your own head, stop you before you even start. He calls them the barking of puppies. In other words, they're just noise.
Second, and this is huge, remember that everything you need is already inside you. Real growth isn't about finding some magic pill or an external teacher who has all the answers. It's about connecting with the strength and the wisdom that you already possess right now. And finally, you have to believe in your own limitless potential. Because the only thing that truly makes something impossible is your own belief that it is. The story you tell yourself, your internal script, that defines the boundaries of your world. So, I'll leave you with this question to think about. Out of all these ideas we've explored, relentless practice, the power of your belief, absolute focus, or finding the treasure in the journey itself, which single one will you choose to make your life, starting right now, today? Because that choice, that's where your real power lies.